Hey, it feels different, right?
Hello, and welcome to episode 28 of Fantasy Sports. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the past All-Star weekend. Obviously, with football coming to a close last week, I told you I wanted to focus more, or told all of you I wanted to focus more on basketball and baseball heading forward. And I felt like this was a perfect thing to start with. We can recap All-Star Saturday as well as what happened in the game and all that went down with it, as well as all kind of the controversy, I guess you could say, that is going on with the All-Star weekend as a whole and the All-Star game. So obviously there's a three-point contest, the Rising Stars, and the dunk contest on Saturday. To focus on the Rising Stars, Bennedict Mathurin, I'm pretty sure, won All-Star or Rising Star game MVP in a game that they lost to the G League that they played. And obviously a lot of these players don't take it very seriously, which is what's been talked about for a while. But the G League obviously went out there, and the players from there went out there with bigger aspirations to win the game than I'm sure a lot of the NBA players. And that was definitely interesting to watching, plenty of players who I have no idea who they are, rookies and et cetera, play against some of the better rookies and better second or third year players in the NBA. It was very, very entertaining. There was this one point guard on the Miami Heat that looked very good. I don't remember his name, or maybe he was a guard, not a point guard, but he was really good. And I thought if there was anyone that would win MVP for the G League team as a whole, it would be him. But to look at the dunk contest, obviously there was Jaylen Brown, Mac McClung, what's his name's brother, Obi Toppin's younger brother, who's on the Knicks. Mac McClung dunked over Shaquille O'Neal, while Jaylen Brown dunked over a popular streamer called Kai Cenat. And there was a lot of flack around that, just because saying that how lame it has gotten year by year in terms of what people are doing. And obviously strolling out a G League player to win a contest 2 years in a row is not the best look for the NBA. You want the players that are playing in the league and to be competitive and want to go out there and play these games and want them to go out there and complete these challenges to win. That's my personal opinion. I'm not sure how a lot of people feel, but I know that's how I think. If I was looking at it from my perspective and the NBA's perspective, I definitely wouldn't want a G League player to win back-to-back dunk contests. It's kind of making it seem less and less important and less entertaining when you have players like, Jaylen Brown, et cetera, going out there and not really putting on a show for anyone. But with that being said, he defended his title from last year, and it was very entertaining. I believe the night was more important and more captured by the three-point contest that went on. Obviously, you had the Sabrina Ionescu and Stephen Curry competition, and Sabrina wound up putting up just as many points as Damian Lillard, who won the NBA three-point contest. Obviously, there was comments that were made by Kenny Smith, who wound up talking about how she was shooting with a smaller ball, although she shot from the NBA three-point line. It was still very interesting to watch her put up the same amount of points as some of the best shooters in the NBA. A lot of it wasn't that entertaining. There wasn't a score over 28. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton, when he came out, he started off very hot. It was really entertaining to watch that in the three-point contest and in the real game. But Damian Lillard wound up going back-to-back as well in the three-point contest. He had a tiebreaker score. There was three. I'm pretty sure it was him, Tyrese, and Trae Young all got 26, and then he won the tiebreaker between those three. So that was entertaining to watch. All of it being said, as well as the skills contest that the Pacers won with Bennedict Mathurin, Miles Turner, and Tyrese, I think as a whole it was entertaining, those certain things. But it's hard because I feel like there's not a lot of quote-unquote hype building up to a lot of these, certain things. Back in the day when Steph and Clay were going head-to-head, that was really entertaining in the three-point contest, when you had players like Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine going and playing, and you're like, in the dunk contest, and you had certain players that were just like, oh, we've seen them dunk. Like Derrick Jones Jr., I remember being super excited for when he was in the in the dunk contest, just because I had seen what he had done in game. So I feel like they need to get more and more of those players involved. Although they might not be, big names, getting those players that are still in the NBA and entertaining and people want to watch, go out and perform is extremely important to the fans, I believe, and it is what they want to see. For the Sabrina Ionescu and Stephen Curry competition, I feel like a lot of it, was surrounded with negative connotations, I guess you could say. There's a lot of negativity towards the WNBA and towards Sabrina, and that this competition is stupid and that people obviously were very excited to watch it, but everyone was like, oh, there's no way Steph's going to lose. And Steph did win. He beat her 29-26, but her putting up 26, which, like I had said before, was the same amount of points Damian Lillard, Trae Young, and Tyrese put up, three of one of the better shooters in the league. Extremely impressive. I believe it was a successful part on watching how she unfolded and showed her talents. But I think the build up to it and ultimately, maybe not the competition, but what wound up happening was a little lackluster. Obviously, it was just a one-on-one. Both had a minute to go, so it was a big build up for something that was very short. If there was something I could say that they would do again, maybe make it a competition with two players or like a combined score, like where one of her teammates or another WNBA 3-point shooter who's extremely good comes out and plays against Steph and someone else, or another two different NBA players that are good shooters. But with that being said, I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was a smart idea. Maybe it wasn't as successful as they hoped it to be. I thought it was still pretty good, and I don't think there was a lot of bad things to say after the fact of it happened. Before the game, we got to see a lot of bad things and a lot of good things. I believe one of the worst things about it was Adam Silver's comments after the game when they talked about he had made a remark. Obviously, the East was the first team ever to put up 200 points in the All-Star game. Backtracking, there was the Celebrity All-Star game and all that on Friday. I just didn't feel that was necessary to cover, as well as the unimportant people that were in it. Not that they were unimportant. I mean, obviously Michael Parsons, Puka Nacua, people like that were in it. But that wasn't something that was super exciting for me to watch. Obviously, just a bunch of celebrities going out there and running around. But with that being said, for the All-Star game, I thought it was I think it's interesting how the players have taken their approach to the game every single year since, obviously, they had the Kobe game. And that was probably the last good All-Star game that there ever was. But with that came a lot of the pressure to have a good game. I don't feel like obviously there's any pressure on them now to have a good game, or to make the game enjoyable to watch. And I don't think that's anyone's particular fault. I just think it's the fault of the NBA to not put some incentive behind the fact that they're going out and putting the best players in the United States playing basketball out on the court. Karl-Anthony Towns put up 50 points. Damian Lillard won the MVP as well. He put up 39 something and something. But people thought Tyrese should have won it because he had 36 something and something. He had more of a triple-double kind of stat line, and they still won. But it was very interesting to watch, I guess, players make the shots they did and do what they did. But I think it's a bad look and a bad image for the NBA when you have Nikola Jokic, your reigning double MVP, and Luka Doncic, your MVP run-up, and one of the faces of a team and faces of the league, going out there and blatantly saying that they have no respect for the weekend and that they don't care about any of it that goes on. And you have Luka shooting half-court shots mid-game. I think that's something that obviously Adam Silver is probably not happy about. And as a fan, I mean, I don't know what to feel about the game because it's kind of like one of those things where the Pro Bowl is so bad that the NBA All-Star game I also expect to be bad. And I feel like it's always the same thing. Like, I don't want to get injured. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. So it's really hard to get the idea out of injuries in that because they are real and they do happen. And obviously no one wants to get injured in a weekend where you're meant to go out there and enjoy it and it's for entertainment purposes pretty much. But when you're putting, players that obviously people as fans want to see up on a stage and they're the best of the best and it's, all of them together, it's hard to not expect better watching experience, I suppose, because I don't know going forward what they're going to do. I know there had been ideas about putting it towards the end of the season, like I had said, giving some form of incentive, whether that be, I know people kept saying home court advantage in the finals for whatever side wins, but my argument in that is a lot, or certain players, obviously aren't going to want to do that because they're front runners for being in the finals. Is Jason Tatum and players from the Celtics on the East going to really want that to be that incentive when they have players on their team like Tyrese Halliburton, who they're also competing with in the Eastern Conference? You know what I mean? What is they're all competing at the end of the day. So it's kind of like all the Eastern Conference players are competing to get to the finals, and obviously they would want home court advantage. But I just feel like it's like the lesser players, like, you know, that aren't really in the playoff race necessarily. Although, given a lot of the All-Stars are usually people who are on All-Star, you know, good teams and teams that are headed to the NBA Finals or headed to the playoffs at most. It's hard to give an incentive so dramatic and so important for a game like the All-Star game. I think maybe a cash incentive would be good. I've always said a draft incentive is extremely important, or would be extremely cool to do. Not important, but, you know, giving the priority to one of the team, you know, conferences that, like, when their team, I don't even know how that would wind up working in the draft. I suppose there would be a way for them to get a top 16 pick if they had a protected pick, or they get an extra pick. I don't know. But the long list of incentives really always comes down to money, and I feel like that's the only thing that would make sense for the All-Star game. There is no other, like, way to kind of give anything that is necessarily fair or doesn't make a joke of the regular season and, you know, the off season. So that's definitely interesting. But game being 211 to like 190 is not something anyone wants to watch. I mean, that's ridiculous. Watching these players go out there and put over, and also the fact that a lot of these players, less and less are playing, less and less. You see a lot of the big stars sit in the game, and when they go in, they don't do anything. They just kind of walk around. You see a lot of the players who are young and, you know, obviously entertaining. You know, everyone likes Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards. But I'm sure, you know, at this point, obviously LeBron is an all-star, and I'm not saying that he's not, but, you know, watching LeBron go out there for 8 minutes, walk around, and then go on the bench isn't really building up anything anymore. So it's just kind of upsetting. Not personally. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm so upset about it. But, you know, it sucks. Like, yeah, make it fun for people to, you know, want to watch. But with all that being said, I know the regular season is really, really tight right now. The MVP race is really close. I'm pretty sure Jokic is up there at number 1, and then Shai is number 2, and Shai is number 2, and then Luka is number 3. Joel Embiid obviously cannot win MVP because of his injury. I personally don't want to see Jokic win it 3 times. I think Luka or Shai should win it. I think I'm more on Shai's side than Luka, just because I like Shai. I've had him in fantasy before. But I'm definitely interested to see how that winds up winding down, just especially with where people finish. I believe, you know, if the OKC is number 1 or 2 and Luka's number 3 or 4, I think it's probably going to go to Shai. But depending on where the Nuggets land, I don't see a world where Nikola doesn't win it if he's like the number 1 seed and he has all the stats he's doing and he has triple doubles. But definitely very interesting. Heading to next week, I think I want to focus on a little bit of baseball. I know that I've been saying I want to cover the NBA and baseball, but looking for the NBA, it's kind of getting down to the middle part where it's like we're in the third, fourth of it, and you don't really want to. I don't really want to say anything that I'm not too sure about. And baseball's starting up, so I can, you know, address all the off-season moves and everything that's gone on since the season ended. And I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I hope you tune in next week when I talk about baseball in the off-season. Thank you so much.